Ukraine extends olive branch to Russia and US in bid to end conflict. According to German news agency DPA on March 5, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed goodwill towards peace talks with Russia, while trying to improve relations with US President Donald Trump after a tense meeting last week. President Zelensky affirmed that peace with Russia is possible if Moscow agrees to certain conditions. As the Kremlin also wants to end the fighting but for different reasons. Ukraine is ready to sit down at the negotiating table as soon as possible to move closer to lasting peace. Zelensky wrote on social network X. The Ukrainian leader proposed a specific roadmap with the first steps including the release of prisoners and a ceasefire in the air, a ban on attacks on the energy sector, long-range drones, bombs on the energy sector and other civilian infrastructure, and an immediate ceasefire at sea. If Russia does the same. The statement came after the US accused him of not doing enough to end the conflict, prompting President Trump to even suspend Washington's military aid to Kiev, looking to mend ties with the US. In an effort to improve relations with Washington, Zelensky expressed gratitude to President Trump. We remember the moment when everything changed when President Trump provided Ukraine with Javelin missiles. We are grateful for this. Mr. Zelensky also frankly admitted that the meeting at the White House last weekend did not go as expected and expressed regret about it. In a video message that evening, Mr. Zelensky stressed the importance of the partnership with the US. For us, a normal partnership with the United States is important to really end the war, and said that Ukraine was prepared for the current suspension of US military aid and could defend itself, but that Washington's aid remained the most important issue today. President Zelensky also affirmed that Ukraine was still ready to sign a mineral exchange and security agreement with the US at any time and in any convenient format, something Mr. Trump refused to complete in the meeting last week. Reactions from Russia and the EU. For its part, the Kremlin appeared optimistic about the possibility of achieving peace following the US's move to suspend military aid. We have not yet studied the details, but if this is true, this is a decision that could really push the government towards the peace process. Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, according to the Interfax news agency. However, Peskov also stressed that Washington needed to lift sanctions against Russia before relations between the two countries could be restored. We consider them illegal, Peskov said of the sanctions, which were partly imposed during President Trump's first term and then significantly expanded under the Biden administration. Meanwhile, EU countries have expressed concern about the US decision to suspend aid. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirmed that the suspension of aid had come into effect, reports from the border. From our center in Jasionka, confirmed the announcement by the US side, seeking support from European allies. Amid the suspension of US aid, Zelensky said he had held talks with several European heads of state, NATO Secretary General and Germany's future Chancellor Friedrich Merz, all of whom have pledged support for Ukraine. EU leaders are scheduled to hold emergency talks on Ukraine, seeking to adapt to new security demands in the absence of US support. Zelensky stressed that European support is crucial to achieving a just peace, as Moscow has so far refused to give up its demands for territorial concessions to Ukraine. The Trump administration launched bilateral talks with Russia last month to negotiate an end to the conflict, as well as potentially normalize relations between the two countries, which have been strained since before the war began. After 3 years of fighting off Russia's offensive, Ukraine is facing a major challenge in maintaining its defense capabilities and at the same time seeking opportunities to negotiate peace on favorable terms. Against this backdrop, President Zelensky concluded, now we need to find the strength to move forward, respecting each other, just as we have always respected the United States, Europe and all our partners, and together doing everything to bring peace closer. According to RT, the German Defense Ministry has reached its limit in supplying weapons to Ukraine. The statement was announced by German Defense Ministry spokesman Stempfle at a press conference on March 5 when asked about the possibility of transferring more Patriot systems and other weapons from the German arsenal to Ukraine. He stated that although Berlin has transferred many systems to Ukraine, there are still natural limits to this. Besides, he also stressed that Berlin also needs to strengthen the country's defense capabilities and ensure that its European allies are in a good position. Mr. Stempfle said that the process of ensuring Germany's defense capabilities goes in parallel with the process of supporting Ukraine. Germany has been one of the European countries with the strongest support for Ukraine since the conflict between Ukraine and Russia escalated in 2022. The country has provided significant military and financial aid to Kiev, according to German government sources. The amount of aid from this country has reached about 44 billion euros, 47 billion United States dollars. The aid includes important weapons such as Leopard tanks, Panzerfaust 3 anti-tank missiles, Stinger air defense missiles and Gepard self-propelled air defense guns. Many analysts have assessed that it is still unclear what the purpose of the above statements from the German Defense Ministry spokesman means for future military aid from Berlin to Kiev. However, this does not seem to be good news for Ukraine, especially in the context that the country is facing more difficulties on the battlefield after US President Trump is said to have announced a temporary suspension of aid. Previously, some US news agencies reported that President Trump had ordered a temporary suspension of all arms transfers to Kiev after a tense debate between him and his Ukrainian counterpart Zelensky last week. The aid suspension is said to include important weapons such as battle tanks, long-range missiles and air defense systems. On March 4, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirmed earlier reports that Washington had suspended all arms transfers to Ukraine, including those in transit through the NATO center in Poland. According to AFP, in an interview, the Polish Prime Minister said, "We have no reason to believe that this is just empty talk." Reports from the border as well as from our logistics center also confirmed the US announcement. Previously, a large amount of US aid, including weapons, was transit through Europe through the Rzeszów region, southeastern Poland, before reaching Ukraine. In addition, according to CNN, CIA Director John Ratcliffe said on March 5 that the US had suspended intelligence assistance and weapons shipments to Ukraine. However, Mr. Ratcliffe expressed hope that the US intelligence freeze would be lifted soon and stressed his commitment to working with Ukraine to achieve peace. Following a letter from the Ukrainian president to President Trump, Ukrainian President Zelensky has expressed concern about the suspension of foreign military aid, stating that Ukraine's ability to maintain its defense without outside support is limited. Russia, for its part, has frequently criticized Western military aid to Ukraine, arguing that outside aid packages only prolong the conflict and cannot change its outcome. Russian officials have repeatedly stressed that such support only escalates tensions and hinders the prospects for a peaceful resolution to the conflict.